And camera's rolling. Camera set and action.
Dr. Enrico Melson, good morning. Warm welcome from your viewers and your fans here on YouTube. Once more, we are here to celebrate with you the 7 pillars of Integral Education MetaSystems.
Thank you. Good morning.
There's a question which has been raised and I would like to put it to the floor. And that is from one of our researchers. And the question is, Dr. Enrico Melson, if the United Nations was to provide you with a forum to speak to the world regarding the 7 pillars of Integral Education MetaSystems, how would you and what would you say would provide solutions that would improve the current existing global systems of the world? Thank you, Dr. Melson.
Thank you. Well, maybe the first irony is that although what we have been discussing is what we call the 7 pillars of integral education, to actually have the opportunity of addressing a global body such as the United Nations and to have the consideration of incorporating this metasystems approach to education, it would actually have a far, far more reaching effect than simply education. The processes that we've spoken about in the field of education are actually the processes of all of life. Certainly, if we are to address the education for global citizenship in the forum such as the United Nations, that we would recognize the natural resonance potential there. Clearly introducing many of the goals, the Millennium Goals of the United Nations, as being expressible through that particular 4th pillar, the pillar of global citizenship. Oh, also addressable through the 3rd pillar, education for development. Oh, and the 2nd, and the 1st, and the 5th, and the 6th, and the 7th. That indeed, the hallmark of the United Nations, in addition to conflict mediation, in addition to the distribution of resources, material resources around the world, has been very much hallmarked by its noted service-oriented dimensions, such as UNICEF, such as UNRWA, such as UNDP. These, in fact, major divisions of the United Nations, which have been oriented towards the provision of service, particularly in environments where there has been great need and great shortage of materials, shortage of resources. So the education for service, truly indeed resonant with the very nature and the foundation and the charter of the United Nations itself. When we consider a global adoption, even in preliminary stages of these pillars, what would happen? We would create the mechanism for the extinction of lying, deception, corruption, abuse, usurpation. We create the mechanism, the initial platform for injustice to finally fall away on this planet. If we were to implement even the bare basics of these 7 pillars, we would find the natural occurrence of the gradual elimination of war. If we were to implement the basics of these 7 pillars, what we would find is an overhaul in legal systems that are designed to protect vested interests of those who already are empowered and to exclude those who need to benefit from far greater equality and egalitarian sharing of resources. Legal systems which historically have come about and have become entrenched by virtue of deceptive means, illegitimate means, power-oriented, oppressive means. These things would all come into re-examination. And as the morphogenic field is further propagating about the planet, which reflects the cumulative consciousness of such systems, such metasystems, going into implementation, even in their initial phases, we would know that the United States would find itself no longer serving as the 800-pound gorilla in the room of the United Nations. And we would know that the United Nations would find itself truly much more empowered to represent the equality of all beings on this planet and the fair entitlement of all beings on this planet to the betterment of life, and also to be a much more proactive and empowered instrument in further advancing globalization, the kind of globalization which we know is indeed more necessary for us, for our survival, for our advancement, for our healing, for our service, and for our bringing about the honor and the restoration of the desecrations that we have wrought upon our planet, our mother, Mother Terra. So, yes, education with respect to solutioneering the many problems that we face on a global level. Education with respect to bringing about global harmony. Education with respect to ameliorating the destructive and erosive conditions in our environment. Education which enhances the human potential of love and sharing and collective creativity. Indeed, that harmonious global community of citizenry. These are all the highest principles of the United Nations. So to speak of applying, even in a little bit, the systems, it's not just to advance what we call the sectors of society called education, institutionalized education and learning. It is to radically accelerate the evolution of human beings, to radically accelerate the evolution of society, to radically restore the harmony of nature, the repairing and the healings within our ecosystem. It is indeed what we are here to contribute. It is to bring us to a level of awareness and a level of reputation in the cosmos that we are a planet of service, that we are a planet of beings who have evolved beyond the selfish indulgence, the greed factors, the envy, and the thirst for destruction and domination, that we have evolved beyond all of that into being a species a global community, a truly integral ecosystem that serves as a great example for intelligent life from all directions of the cosmos. This is, in my humble opinion and perspective, what could come from having an opportunity to address such esteemed a body as the United Nations, and to offer unconditionally, to offer humbly, to offer sincerely this MetaSystems approach to education for our world. I hope this is useful. When we think about offering education of a whole person and for a whole person being, just that first pillar is so far beyond what we have done traditionally and historically. When we add to that the education for true empowerment, we have the means to ameliorate the vast majority of psycho-emotional distress that permeates society all over the globe. The feeling of empowerment, something which can come not at the expense of disempowering others, but indeed as an endogenous, self-sustaining and perpetuating and emanating field of energy and state of being. When we know that we can implement a system of education for development that accelerates maturation, it brings about a greater balance and fulfillment state of a whole person that is relevant to the needs of the collective society as much as it is relevant to the demands and needs of the evolving individual, then we have a system that is addressing something very, very important. When we have a system that looks upon global citizenship as an extension of the original foundational inalienable rights of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, we begin to understand that there are other inalienable rights. The right of knowing, the right of loving and being loved, the right of sharing, the right of belonging, the right of compassion, kindness, and the right of productivity, the right to live in purpose, and the right to live in that sense of a collective harmony that transcends the alienation which has otherwise been so prevalent amongst the vast majority of this planet. When we know that we have a system that activates and optimizes the experience of genius, the intensities of the flow of intelligence, that one can live and breathe and swim in a field of infinitely variable intelligence on all levels of one's being, on all ways in which one can intimately connect with another, then we know that this process of genius is not something to ever again be regarded as foreign or rare, yet as universal, as commonplace, and also an expression of inalienability. So, when we speak of a system that teaches enlightenment, the awakening, we are not trying to impose a global religion. we are indeed introducing a pathway to awakening, a pathway to discovery, a pathway to associations of so much more with so much more, far more than ever considered before by any individual in his or her solitary path of understanding. When we teach such enlightenment, therefore, it is not simply an awakening state of an individual. It is an enlightening evolution of the entirety of the global ecosystem itself, for it transcends even the human species, and it relates to how we connect with nature in all of her infinite forms, how it connects with the divine presence, with the cosmic intent in all of its universal and quantum level states of manifestation. When we speak of an education system based in service, when we know that to deserve something is to be of service with respect to that something, when we know that to serve is indeed to enhance, when we know that learning how to serve more and more effectively comes from the primary basis in values, in thought and perspective, in heart and compassion, which is that perspective of caring for all, love all, serve all. That these indeed are high, high values and are essential and fundamental. They can span the entire spectrum of human society. They can span the entire spectrum of activity and interaction by all human beings with all other aspects of our ecosystem. That this orientation of service is essential in bringing about the necessary solutions to these problems we have identified, and so many more problems we have yet to identify, especially in the larger public venue. So in summary, it has been a great honor to be given, through my connection as a servant, this connection with Source, with higher fields of intelligence, and with far greater capacities of love, unconditional, spiritual, cosmic, planetary, than this one could hold in a self-indulgent and self-congratulatory context. Indeed, to have served as an instrument for the conveyance of such knowledge, it is with great honor and humility that this one submits to the viewership, in hopes that what you have given your valuable time and attention to may in some positive way, modest to perhaps more substantial, assist you in your own journey, in your own guidance, as you move forward in this learning process called life. For that, I thank you. And again, I hope that this is useful. Thank you.
Dr. Enrico Melson, once more, thank you very much on behalf of your audience here today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And with warm adieus, we bid you farewell. Thank you, Dr. Enrico Melson.
Thank you.